Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and we've got some Star Trek news today. This is a long article. I was going to include it in my live news stream yesterday, but it's a bit long, so I thought I'll do a separate video on it today. So here I am, and apologies for my hair. I've just washed it and I can't do anything with it. So, so there we go. Right, so off we go. News, let's get it up here. I make myself titchy tiny. But before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already. There's also the super thanks button, which would be gratefully appreciated. You know what I mean. Throw some money at me. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm like a stripper. Put some dollar bills in my G-string. Not literally, but I suppose it could be arranged. Anyway, what am I going on about? I don't know, I'm waffling. Right, so let's have a look at this article, shall we? I'll make myself titchy tiny if I can find out where I am. Where are we? There we go. Make myself titchy tiny. Then we can read this article, can't we? I've not read it, so I don't know if it's going to annoy me or whatever. It may do. It may annoy me, so here we go. Right, here it is. Right, Variety. Who wrote this thing? By the way, a cool picture, that, by the way. Even though last night I was talking about this on my live stream. And for the love of me, I could not see Leonard Nimoy. He's there. Where's Leonard Nimoy? Where's proper Spock? Front and centre. Unbelievable. I'm an idiot. Anyway, cool picture is that. A great desktop wallpaper. So, right, anyway, off we go. From Neil Jamieson for Variety, it says there. Right, it's called, the title is The Future of Star Trek, From Starfleet Academy to New Movies and Michelle Yeoh, How the 58-Year-Old Franchise is Planning for the Next Generation of Fans. Hang on, no, it says by Adam B. Vary. It says Neil Jamieson for Variety there. Or is that who did this picture? That's probably who did this picture, didn't it? By Adam B. Vary. Sounds like, I don't know. But anyway, off we go. I can't believe I get to play the captain of the Enterprise. Anson Mount is sitting across from me, Adam, not me, pardon me, on one of the Toronto sound stages for the Paramount Plus series Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which I love. I'm not a fan of Kurtzman Trek, but I love Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I can't explain it. I don't know why. I know it's messing up canon. I know it's, not the best, stories and stuff like that. But for some reason, I love Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So there we go. I'm not going to force myself to hate something. I think some people on YouTube force themselves to hate things. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to force myself to hate it. If I like it, I like it. And I do. Right, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, which is set in the years when his character, Captain Christopher Pike, led the legendary Federation starship with a young Spock and Uhura, and some others as well. We're speaking of the sleek Enterprise bridge, and Mount is recounting the out-of-body experience he had the first time he sat in the iconic captain's chair. I had this immediate flashback to playing Star Trek as a kid, he says. I don't think a day goes by when I don't at some point stop and think to myself, I'm on effing Star Trek. I'm not going to swear, unless I get proper angry. And I'm not there yet. There's a cover. Is this the cover? What's going to be in the Variety magazine, maybe? I don't know. Does Star Trek still matter? Or is that another article? I've no idea. Yes, it does matter, in my opinion. Just Kurtzman Trek doesn't matter, apart from Strange New Worlds. But if it stopped, I wouldn't be upset. I'd rather them stop doing new Star Trek and mucking up the canon, and sort of like revert back to the proper what we've seen, proper canon from the original series and the Berman era and all that. Then continue messing it up like they are doing. Anyway, Strange New Worlds is the 12th Star Trek TV show since the original series debuted on NBC in 1966, introducing Gene Roddenberry's vision of a hopeful future for humanity. In the 58 years since, the Star Trek galaxy has logged 900 television episodes and 13 feature films, amounting to 668 hours, nearly 28 days of content to date. So you could have a Star Trek month, a Star Trek lunar month, where you just watch Star Trek non-stop and keep your eyes open with matchsticks. and stream it on YouTube. Even compared with Star Wars and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Star Trek stands as the only storytelling venture to deliver a single narrative experience for this long across TV and film. In other words, Star Trek is not just a franchise, as Alex Boo Kurtzman, who oversees all Star Trek TV production, puts it. Star Trek is an institution. And as I've said on X, formerly Twitter, Kurtzman Trek is an institution. Who wants to live in an institution? Not me. Apart from Strange New Worlds. And, Lower Decks, but that doesn't really count, does it? And Prodigy. But it's not really, I don't know, Alex Kurtzman, what does he do? I don't know, but anyway. I don't think he's really connected with the good Star Trek. That's that's my excuse. Anyway, whatever. Without a steady infusion of new blood, though, institutions have a way of fading into oblivion. See soap operas, MySpace, Blockbuster Video. To keep Star Trek thriving has meant charting a precarious course to satisfy the fans who have fueled it for decades, while also discovering innovative ways to get new audiences on board. Doing Star Trek means that you have to deliver something that's entirely familiar and entirely fresh at the same time, Kurtzman says. Well, he fails, doesn't he, every time? Usually. I wish I hated all of Kurtzman Trek, but I don't, which just annoys me. That's my big bugbear, that I don't hate everything he does, and I want to. But anyway. Fulfilling that mandate has never been more vital to Paramount Global, which needs the franchise to flourish while the company competes in a troubled streaming economy and burnishes its value for potential buyers. Because Paramount is up for sale, apparently. Which is probably why Star Trek 4 was announced. The screenwriter for Star Trek 4 was announced yesterday. They're trying to pull in potential buyers or investors. We take it very seriously, says David Stapf, president of CBS Studios. Star Trek is one of the most valued, treasured, and to be nurtured franchises in all of media. Then take it away from Alex Kurtzman. That's just my suggestion. And give it to somebody who really knows Star Trek. Terry Matalas, for instance, or Robert Meyer Burnett, or just get Rick Berman back in. I know he's knocking on a bit now, but just get him back in to just set up some proper Star Trek, and then he can retire. Hand it off to Brandon Braga, get him back in, get all the old crew back in, Ronald D. Moore, etc. Ira Stephen Bear. The franchise has certainly weathered its share of fallow periods, most recently after Nemesis bombed in theatres in 2002 and UPN cancelled Enterprise in 2005. Now that was Les Moonves, wasn't it? Who's always hated Star Trek and science fiction. It took 12 years for Star Trek to return to television with the premiere of Discovery in 2017. Since then, however, there has been more Star Trek on TV than ever. The adventure series Strange New Worlds, the animated comedy Lower Decks, the kids series Prodigy, which got cancelled, got removed from Paramount Plus, and now it's going to Netflix. They don't know what they're doing. They honestly don't know what they're doing to Paramount with Star Trek. Anyway, are all in various stages of production, and the serialised thriller Picard, concluded last year when it ranked, along with Star Trek Strange New Worlds, among Nielsen's 10 most watched streaming original series for multiple weeks. Nearly 1 in 5 Paramount Plus subscribers in the US is watching at least one Star Trek series, according to the company, and more than 50% of fans watching one of the new Trek shows also watch at least 2 others. Well, fans, Star Trek fans will watch Trek shows, won't they? Anyway, the new show airs in 200 international markets and are dubbed into 35 languages. As Discovery launches its 5th and final, thank God, season in April, Star Trek is in many ways stronger than it's ever been. Not necessarily. Quantity doesn't necessarily mean strength or quality, does it? Star Trek fans have kept it alive more times than seems possible, says Eugene Roddenberry Jr., whose father must be spinning in his grave like a chicken on a rotisserie thing, who executive produces the TV series through Roddenberry Entertainment. He knows sod all about Star Trek. I never heard talk that, he's a bit of an idiot. But anyway, I'm sure he's a lovely fella, but I've heard he's a bit of an idiot. But I can't talk, can I? I'm an idiot as well. But I'm not a millionaire, unfortunately. While many shows rightfully thank their fans for supporting them, we literally wouldn't be here without them. But the depth of fan devotion to Star Trek also belies a curious paradox about its enduring success. It's not the largest fan base, says Akiva Goldsman. Not anymore, it used to be. You know why the internet exists? What the two most searched for things when the internet first started, way back in the 90s, the two most searched phrases were sex and Star Trek. That's how big Star Trek used to be. But it's not anymore. So it's not the largest fan base anymore, says Akiva. How the hell did he win an Oscar? Goldsman, Strange New Worlds executive producer and co-showrunner. It's not Star Wars, it's certainly not Marvel. When J.J. Abrams rebooted Star Trek in 2009 with Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto and Zoe Saldana playing Kirk, Spock and Uhura, I hate those films. Apart from Beyond, which isn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I just... do me head in. The movie grossed more than any previous Star Trek film by a comfortable margin. Yeah, but it cost a hell of a lot more than the previous Star Trek films. But neither that film nor its two sequels broke $500 million in global grosses. Or is it grosses? However you pronounce it. A hurdle every other top-tier franchise can clear without breaking a sweat. There's also the fact that Star Trek fans are ageing, such as myself. I asked the Next Generation star Jonathan Frakes, who's acted in or directed more versions of Star Trek than any other person alive. Is that I don't know. Maybe directed, but not acted in. Versions of, I suppose, yes. He's been in all of them, hasn't he? Apart from the original series. In one form or another, but not Prodigy. Anyway. Michael Dorn as Worf is the Star Trek actor that's appeared in more episodes of Star Trek than anybody, because he moved to Deep Space Nine, didn't he? In season 4 of that show. Anyway, where were we? How often he meets fans for whom the new Star Trek shows are their first. Of the fans who come talk to me, I would say very, very few. Excuse me. He says, Star Trek fans, as we know, are very, very, very loyal and not very young. Excuse me. As Stapf puts it, there's a tried and true Trek fan that is probably going to come to every Star Trek no matter what it is, and we want to expand the universe. That's another way of saying it's Star Trek for a modern audience. Another bit of art from Neil Jamieson. It's very good, very good. What we got here then? So we've got proper Spock, Quinto Spock, Peck Spock, Shatner Kirk, proper Kirk, Pine Kirk. Is that Anson Mount? I don't know who that is. That might be Anson Mount, but I'm not entirely sure. Nichelle Nichols as Uhura, Zoe Saldana, and Rose, I forgot her name, apologies. Rose Gooding something, I forgot her name, so I do apologise. As Strange New Worlds, Uhura. Anyway, that's not Anson Mount, is it? I don't know who that is. Or is that Kirk from Strange New Worlds? I don't bloody know. While Paramount Pictures redoubles its efforts to get a Star Trek feature into theatres, Kurtzman and his production company Secret Hideout are pushing the boundaries of what Star Trek can look like on the small screen. Michelle Yeoh just wrapped filming the first Star Trek TV movie, Section 31, a spy thriller that the Oscar winner... That's the only reason why it's a movie and not a series. It was supposed to be a series, but she won an Oscar. Probably didn't have as much time on her hands to devote to a series. They thought, we'll do a movie instead. That the Oscar winner characterises as Mission Impossible in space, and this summer the first Star Trek young adult series, Starfleet Academy, will start production on the largest single set ever created for Star Trek on TV. That is going to be bloody awful. It's going to be the same as all modern, new Trek, Kurtzman Trek. Even though there's going to be Starfleet cadets running about, they'll be the ones that save the universe. because it'll be some universe-destroying threat that's coming, because they always are. They always are. Every single person I spoke to for this story talked about Star Trek with joyful earnestness, as rare in the industry as Nerd Alert, a Klingon pacifist. When I'm meeting fans, sometimes they're coming to be confirmed like I'm kind of a priest, Ethan Peck says during a break in filming on Strange New World's set. He's in full Spock regalia, pointy ears, severe eyebrows, bowl haircut, and when asked about his earliest memories of Star Trek, he stares off into space in what looks like Vulcan contemplation. I remember being on the playground in 2nd or 3rd grade and doing the Vulcan salute. Not really knowing where it came from, he says. When I thought of Star Trek, I thought of Spock. I know I said Star Trek, didn't I? Star Trek. I thought of Spock, and now I'm him. It's crazy. To love Star Trek is to love abstruse science and cowboy diplomacy. Unification, TNG. Complex moral dilemmas and questions about the meaning of existence. It's ultimately a show with the most amazing vision of optimism, I think, ever put on screen in science fiction, says Kurtzman, who is 50. What's that got to do with all? All you need is 2 minutes on the news to feel hopeless now. Star Trek is honestly the best balm you could ever hope for. So why does it keep trying to destroy the Federation then, or trying to make out that Starfleet are the bad guys? That's generally what happens in Star Trek these days. Anyway, I'm getting a tour of the USS Enterprise from Scotty, or rather, Strange New World production designer Jonathan Lee, who is gushing in his native Scottish burr as we step into the Starship's transporter room. I got such a buzzer from doing this. A buzzer? I can't tell you, he says. You just have done. I actually designed 4 versions of it. Lee is especially proud of the walkway he created to run behind the transporter pads, an innovation that allows the production to shoot the characters from a brand new set of angles as they beam up from a far-flung planet. It's one of the countless ways that this show has been engineered to be as cinematic as possible, part of Kurtzman's overall vision to make Star Trek on TV feel like a movie every week. Well, that's what they said about Next Generation when they were filming it back in the 80s. They were saying they were making a movie, an hour-long movie every week. So that's not anything new, Alex. And you'd know that if you were a Star Trek fan. Kurtzman's tenure with Star Trek began with co-writing the screenplay for Abrams' 2009 movie, along with Roberto Orci. And Orci was the Star Trek fan of the two. Kurtzman was never a Star Trek fan, apparently. Which was suffused with a fast-paced visual style that was new to the franchise. When CBS Studios approached Kurtzman in the mid-2010s about bringing Star Trek back to TV, he knew instinctively that it needed to be just as exciting as that film. The mid-2010s? Did they approach him? Because apparently it was going to be... didn't they approach... It was Brian Fuller that were originally going to do Discovery, wasn't it? You know, bring Star Trek back to TV. Brian Fuller and Nicholas Meyer, who started off Discovery, and Kurtzman kind of came along, used his I suppose, political muscle to basically oust them and take over Star Trek. That's what I've heard anyway. And just run it into the ground. The scope was so much different than anything we had ever done on Next Gen, says Frakes, who's helmed 2 feature films with the Next Generation cast and directed episodes of almost every live-action Trek series, including Discovery and Strange New Worlds. Every department has the resources to create. A new science lab set for Season 3, for example, boasts a transparent floor atop a 4-foot pool of water that swirls underneath the central workbench. Why? Don't know. And the surrounding walls sport a half-dozen view screens. Maybe it's cetacean ops. But yet that doesn't happen. Yeah, I don't know. Sport half a dozen view screens with live schematics custom designed by a 6-person team. I like being able to paint on a really big canvas, Kurtzman says. Yeah, like he did with The Mummy. How well did that go, mate? The biggest challenge is always making sure that no matter how big something gets, you're never losing focus on that tiny little emotional story. Is this the science lab. Why is he in a spacesuit? Don't know. I suppose we'll find out. To strike that balance, Strange New World showrunners Goldsman and Henry Alonso Myers have rooted the series in a classic episodic structure while constantly experimenting with the fluidity of what Star Trek can be. In its first 2 seasons, Strange New Worlds hopped from monster horror to body swap comedy to costume fantasy to courtroom drama to a full-blown musical featuring a Klingon boy band. I like that musical episode, so there. For Season 3, debuting in 2025, Frakes directed an episode framed as a Hollywood murder mystery that he calls the best episode of television I've ever done. Well, he would, wouldn't he? He's not going to say it's rubbish, is he? At this point, is there a genre that Strange New Worlds can't do? As long as we're in storytelling that is cogent and sure-handed, I'm not sure there is, Goldsman says with an impish smile. Could it do Muppets? Sure. Could it do black and white, silent, slapstick? Maybe. Yeah, of course it could. This approach is also meant to appeal to people who might want to watch Star Trek but regard those 668 hours of backstory as an insurmountable burden. No, it's not. Just watch them. Don't make it a chore, though. Don't make it a chore. You've got to enjoy it. You shouldn't have to watch a previously on to follow our show, Myers says, even though just about every episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds starts with previously on Star Trek Strange New Worlds. It does. Even though you think it's an episode that's supposed to be not connected to each other. It always does. To achieve so many hairpin shifts in tone and setting while maintaining Kurtzman's cinematic mandate, Strange New Worlds has embraced one of the newest innovations in visual effects, virtual production, first popularised on the Star Wars series The Mandalorian. The technology, called the AR wall, well, they call it the volume, don't they? Or stagecraft. It's got various names, hasn't it? Involves a towering circular partition of LED screens projecting a highly detailed computer-generated backdrop. Is it using the Unreal 5 engine? Is it 5 we're up to? Rather than act against a green screen, the actors can see whatever fantastical surroundings their characters are inhabiting. That means that it's all got to be created beforehand, hasn't it? I mean, usually with the green screen, you've got the luxury of creating what's supposed to be on the green screen afterwards. You know, you're not locked in to what it's supposed to look like. You can tweak it afterwards, can't you, and make it how you want it to be. But with the volume or the AR wall, it's all got to be created beforehand, hasn't it? Maybe that's fine. I don't know, but anyway. Lending it a richer level of verisimilitude to the show. But there is a catch. While the technology is calibrated to maintain a proper sense of three-dimensional perspective through the camera lens, it can be a bit dizzying for anyone standing on the set. The images on the walls start to move in a way that makes no sense, says Mount. You end up having to focus on something that's right in front of you so you don't fall down. And yet, even as he's talking about it, Mount can't help but break into a boyish grin. Sometimes we call it the holodeck, he says, even though they don't have it on the original series Enterprise. Anyway, whatever. In fact, apart from in the animated series. In fact, the pathway to the AR wall on the set is dotted with posters of the virtual reality room from the Next Generation, and the words "Enter Holodeck" is a classic Trek font. I want to take one of those home with me, Peck says. Does the AR wall also affect him? I don't really get disoriented by it. Spock would not get ill, so I'm method acting. Well, you're method acting in that Star Trek short, when you were being a Vulcan, singing and laughing with bloody number one in that turbo lift. God, I hated that. I'm on the set of Star Trek TV movie Section 31. We're moving on now to another section, 31. Seated in an opulent nightclub with a view of a brilliant swirling nebula, watching Yo rehearse with director Olatunde Onsen-Sanmi. Apologies, I'm probably getting that wrong. But watch his film, The Fourth Kind. It's amazing. I love that film. And her castmates. Originally, the project was announced as a TV series centred on Philippa Georgiou, the semi-reformed tyrant. Yo originated on Discovery. She's from the Mirror universe. She was the Empress of the Terran Empire. But between COVID delays and the phenomenon of everything everywhere all at once, there wasn't room in the veteran actress's schedule to fit a season of television. Yo was undaunted. We'd never let go of her, she says of her character. I've never liked Empress Giorgio. I thought Captain Giorgio were great, but I've never liked Empress Giorgio. I was just blown away by all the different things I could do with her. Honestly, it was like, let's just get it done because I believe in this. A few minutes later, dozens of extras in all manner of outlandish evening wear file into the club, several of them made up as classic Star Trek aliens that fans might be surprised to see in this kind of swanky establishment. Right, okay. But probably a bit some Ferengi and stuff like that, a bit. Andorians, etc. But we'll see. But I'm far more distracted by a different discovery. Giorgio is standing with a young Rachel Garrett, Casey Roll, a character first introduced on Next Generation as the older, fearless captain of the USS Enterprise C, the ambassador class that was destroyed at the Battle of Narendra 3. Thus bringing about peace, lasting peace between the Federation and the Klingon Empire. If that means nothing to you, don't worry. The enormity of the revelation that Garrett is being brought back is meant only for fans, hopefully not on OnlyFans. If you don't know who the character is, you're not missing anything. But you kind of are you? It'd be handy if you knew. Just go and watch Yesterday's Enterprise, and I'm sure... I know the works, it's a movie, isn't it? I'm thinking if it's a series, they'll do a previously on and show a clip from Yesterday's Enterprise. Maybe not. It was always my goal to deliver an entertaining experience that is true to the universe but appeals to newcomers, says screenwriter Craig Sweeney. I wanted a low barrier of entry so that anybody could enjoy it. Nevertheless, including Garrett on the show is exactly the kind of gasp-worthy detail meant to flood Star Trek fans with geeky good feeling. You cannot create new fans to the exclusion of old fans, Kurtzman says, which is essentially what he's been doing through his entire run, excluding old fans. But anyway, you must serve your primary fan base first, and you must keep them happy. This is one of the most important steps to building new fans. Maybe he's turned over a new leaf. Maybe he's a good guy now. Maybe Star Trek's going to be amazing from now on. Maybe he's learned from Star Trek Picard Season 3 and how well received that was. But I don't think that was perfect anyway, but it was easily the best of the Picard series. Anyway, there she is, Michelle Yeoh, with some cybernetic person. I have no idea. It does remind me of something, but I can't think what. Is it a fella? I think it might be one of the characters from like that Alita Battle Angel film. But I don't know. Who's it going to be? I don't know. Is it going to be somebody totally new? I have no idea. It seems to be wearing some kind of uniform. Could that be a Starfleet uniform from the back? You know, a blue science thing. I don't know. I'm trying to look at the background as well to see if there's any clues. But it's not giving much away, is it? Anyway, she's lovely, is Michelle Yeoh. I just don't like the character. On its face, is she still married to Jean Todt, who used to be the boss of Ferrari, then he was the boss of Formula 1. Maybe he still is, I don't know. But anyway, tiny little Napoleon Frenchman fella. Anyway, on its face, that maxim would make Section 31 a genuine risk. The titular Black Ops organisation has been controversial with Star Trek fans since it was introduced in the 1990s. The concept is almost antagonistic to some of the values of Star Trek, Sweeney says, but he still saw Section 31 as an opportunity to broaden what a Star Trek project could be while embracing the radical inclusivity at the heart of the franchise's appeal. Trouble is, Alex Kurtzman in Star Trek Discovery and his team of writers didn't understand what Section 31 was. I think they just confused it with Starfleet Intelligence. I think they thought it was one and the same thing, but it isn't. Section 31 is a part of Starfleet. It was in the original Starfleet Charter, even before the Federation was founded, as to be like a as it said, a black ops organisation that can be. It can do things. What's the word? With plausible deniability. That's the whole thing about Section 31. So it was just a few people, not many people, or just one person. In Deep Space Nine, it was just one person. It was Sloane, but occasionally had a couple of heavies with him. But he used to go around doing things to save the Federation, but do it in a way that is antithetical to Federation ethics. It was save the Federation at any cost. And they didn't, they didn't do it very often, I suppose you could say. Or we didn't see them very often. But in Discovery, they had badges and ships and star bases and stuff like that. Even in Picard Season 3, there was a Section 31 base, which were all totally wrong, in my opinion. But anyway, Section 31 worked through people. I suppose even when in Deep Space Nine, when it created the changeling disease or whatever, the virus that were going to destroy the changelings, there wouldn't have been a Section 31 base working on that. It'll have been working through other people. That's how I see it, anyway. That's how I see it. Getting other people to do different things, people with compartmentalisation, so that not everybody knew what the other were doing. That's how it works in Black Ops. But they don't know that. They don't understand that. Anyway, where were we? I forgot where I was now. Famously, there's a spot for everybody in Roddenberry's Utopia. So I was like, well, who would be the people who don't quite fit in, he says. I didn't want to make the John le Carré version, where you're in the headquarters and it's backbiting and shades of grey. I wanted to do the people who were at the edges, out in the field. That's not Section 31, like I said, it's like one or two people. It's not like it didn't have a headquarters, so to speak. These are not people who necessarily work together the way you would see on a Star Trek bridge. For Osun... Oh, God, this name. Is there an easy way to pronounce it? For Osun Sanmi, who grew up watching The Next Generation with his father, it boils down to a simple question. Is it putting good into the world, he asks. Are these characters ultimately putting good into the world? And taking a step back, are we putting good into the world? Are we inspiring humans watching this to be good? That's, for me, what I've always admired about Star Trek. Yes, that's what Star Trek's all about. Doing the right thing. That's what ultimately it is. Should Section 31 prove successful, Yost says she's game for a sequel. And Kurtzman is already eyeing more opportunities for TV movies, including a possible follow-up to Picard. Cool. But don't make a mess of it. The franchise's gung-ho sojourn into streaming movies, however, stands in awkward contrast to the persistent difficulty Paramount Pictures and Abrams' production company Bad Robot have had making a feature film following 2016's Star Trek Beyond. The longest theatres have gone without a Star Trek movie since Paramount started making them. First, a movie reuniting Pine's Captain Kirk with his late father, played in the 2009 Star Trek by Chris Hemsworth, fell apart in 2018. Around the same time, Quentin Tarantino publicly flirted with, then walked away from directing a Star Trek movie with a 1930s gangster backdrop. That'd have been awful. I think it would have been. I love Quentin Tarantino, but no. But you never know. Noah Hawley was well into pre-production on a Star Trek movie with a brand new cast until then studio chief Emma Watts abruptly shelved it in 2020, and 4 months after Abrams announced at Paramount's 2022 shareholders meeting that his 2009 cast would return for a movie directed by Matt Shakman. WandaVision, Shakman left the project to make the Fantastic Four for Marvel, and it probably didn't help that none of the cast had been approached before Abrams made his announcement. Because it wasn't a serious announcement. They've got to do this every now and again. I think to keep rights of something, they've either to announce that something's in pre-production or something's in development, or the rights will lapse and they won't be able to make any more, and they've got to put a bid in, for doing it again. So that's probably the only reason why they keep doing this. That's another reason probably why they've announced that they've assigned a screenwriter to Star Trek 4 movie yesterday. It's all to do with that. It's all chess and moving pawns about and shuffling cards and all that. It's all a game to them. The studio still intends to make what it's dubbed the final chapter for the Pine Quinto Saldana cast. I hope not, because they're bloody awful films. Just forget them. Move on. And Steve Yockey, oh, here we go, the flight attendant, is writing a new draft of the script. Even further along is another prospective Star Trek film written by Seth Graham Smith, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and to be directed by Toby Haynes, Andor, Black Mirror, USS Callister. That Studio Insiders says on track to start pre-production by the end of the year. So what's this one going to be? I've not heard of this one. I don't have no clue what it's about. In both cases, the studio is said to be focused on right-sizing the budgets to fit within the clear box office ceiling for Star Trek feature films. Don't give them too much money. Reel them in. Restrict how much they can spend, which means they might be a bit more creative in what they do. It doesn't need to be $200 million or something. $100 million maximum, but I think that's a bit much as well. But anyway, there's Alex Kurtzman. Oh, God. Not a fan, can you tell? That tension, by the way, it looks like the fella, one of the bad guys in Total Recall. Rick, it's called Helm, is the character, one of Michael Ironside's hangers-on. He dies in that film, thankfully. That tension isn't exclusive to the film studio. I lost count of the number of times someone made a point to note, with real pride, how one or the other of the Star Trek TV productions is saving money, whether it be Section 31, repurposing sets from Discovery, or Strange New Worlds, redressing the same set to be everything from crew quarters to a sparring gym. That's always happened in Star Trek. The movies and the TV series all use the same sets, just redressed them. So that's nothing new. No one will get specific about budgets, but Kurtzman says that Section 31 costs so much less than you'd ever make a Star Trek movie for. Well, we should hope so. Far from complaining, everyone seems to relish the challenge. Visual effects supervisor Jason Zimmerman, is he related to Herman, I wonder? Don't know. Maybe, says that working with Alex, the references are always at least $100 million movies, if not more. So we just kind of reverse engineer how do we do that without having to spend the same amount of money and time. The workload doesn't seem to faze him either. Visual effects people are a big Star Trek fandom, he says. You naturally just get all these people who go a little bit above and beyond, and you can't trade that for anything. In one of Kurtzman's several production offices in Toronto, why has he got several? That's just being greedy. He and production designer Matthew Davis are scrutinising a series of concept drawings for the newest Star Trek show, Starfleet Academy. The show that nobody asked for, apart from Alex Kurtzman, who's been banging on about it for years, same with his Section 31 show. But no Star Trek Legacy, is there? No, don't hear about that, do we? Because Alex Kurtzman doesn't want to do that. And he's the boss, unfortunately. A bit earlier, they showed me their plans for the series' Central Academic Atrium, a sprawling two-storey structure that will include a mess hall, amphitheatre, trees, catwalks, multiple classrooms, and a striking view of the Golden Gate Bridge in a single contiguous space. Contiguous means connected. To fit it all, they plan to use every inch of Pinewood, Toronto's 45,900 square foot soundstage, the largest in Canada. But this is a Star Trek show, so there do need to be starships, and Kurtzman is discussing with Davis about how one of them should look. The issue is that Starfleet Academy is set in the 32nd century. An era so far into the future, Kurtzman and his team need to invent much of its design language. For me, this design is almost too Klingon, Kurtzman says. Not that he'd know. I mean, his Klingons were bloody awful, weren't they, in Discovery? They were nothing like proper Klingons. Anyway, I want to see the outline and instinctively, on a blink, recognise it as a Federation ship. The time period was first introduced on Season 3 of Discovery when the lead character Michael Burnham, Sonequa Martin Green, transported the namesake starship and its crew there from the 23rd century, and she didn't need to. She didn't need to. Control was defeated. They didn't need to go to the 1,000 years in the future, nearly 1,000 years. They didn't need to do it. They didn't need to do it. But she did. And she didn't even need to take the bloody suit. She flew this, the Red Angel suit. She flew that in to the future. And then once she got there, when season 3 started, we found out it had an autopilot. So she could have done it. She could have beamed herself or whatever to the Enterprise, Discovery or whatever. That's the trouble with modern Star Trek. It doesn't make sense, and they don't explain things. In proper Star Trek, things get explained. It doesn't have to be in detail, but things get mentioned or get, something is referenced or whatever. If there's like a plot hole, they'll say, "Why? What about this?" And they'll say, "Oh, they make something up to cover it." They don't bother with that in modern Star Trek. They just hope you don't notice, and fans generally do notice. If Roddenberry's... hang on, I haven't finished yet. It was exciting because every time we would make a decision, we would say, "And now that's canon," says Martin Green. Yeah, if it's on screen, it's canon, unfortunately. If Roddenberry, detached warp nacelles, what a ludicrous idea. If Roddenberry's conception of an egalitarian future is the foundation for Star Trek, then canon is its lumber, creating its expansive and elaborate narrative framework of alien species, theoretical technology, and para-historical incident. As the word implies, for some fans, canon is no less than holy writ. Any perceived deviation or disruption, like deciding Burnham is Spock's heretofore unmentioned adopted sister, is akin to blasphemy, and Trek fans have never been shy about expressing their displeasure. Like at the end of season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, where when Discovery went to the 32nd century, back in the 23rd century, everybody just decided, we'll just not mention it again. We'll not mention Discovery, we'll not mention its crew, we'll not mention the spore drive, we'll just forget about it all, and we'll not mention it. I mean, that even gets brought up in Strange New Worlds, where Pike has to pull in favours to learn about something that happened, the big battle at the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 2. Anyway. And another painting from Neil Jamieson showing there's Jailer from Star Trek Beyond. Oh, there's Kirstie Alley's Savick and many other people, all crammed into the transporter. We listen to a lot of it, Kurtzman says. I think I've been able to separate the toxic fandom from really true fans who love Star Trek. No such thing as toxic fandom. There's just, what's the word? Not devoted, but passionate. That's the word I'm looking for. Passionate fandom. That's what it is. Anyway, and want you to hear what they have to say about what they would like to see, and then you just do your own thing, don't you, Alex? By season 2, the Discovery writers pivoted from its dour, war-torn first season and sent the show on its trajectory 900 plus years into the future. We had to be very aware of making sure that Spock was in the right place and that Burnham's existence was explained properly, because she was never mentioned in the original series. Yeah, so that's why they just said, we'll not mention them again. We promise. Says executive producer and showrunner Michelle Paradise. What was fun about jumping into the future is that it was very much fresh snow, except she just made it like an apocalyptic galaxy, where the burn had happened, and so very few people had warp-capable starships anymore. So he made it like a Mad Max sort of future. Not like we'd seen, in other incarnations of Star Trek that had shown us the future. Fair enough, not 900 years, but they'd shown us like several hundred years into the future, so we'd seen the Enterprise J and Daniels and all this stuff from nearly, not far off the 32nd century. But no, then we had the burn, which knocked everything back, and obviously because it's, not allowed to be optimistic. And then the Discovery arrives, a 1,000-year-old starship, and suddenly it's the best starship ever, even though it's 1,000 years old. And they've always said that's like a Viking longship being transported to now and suddenly being the best ship ever. That freedom affords Starfleet Academy far more creative latitude, while also dramatically reducing how much the show's target audience of tweens and teens needs to know about Star Trek before watching, which puts them on the same footing as the students depicted in the show. These are kids who've never had a red alert before, Noga Landau, executive producer and co-showrunner, says. They never had to operate a transporter or be in a phaser fight. Because remember, Earth, during this time, after the burn, Earth left the Federation, even though one of the founding members. And then just rejoined at the end of season 4. Because, it's stupid. Earth kind of became, xenophobic. But now it's fine. In the Starfleet Academy writers' room, his secret hideout Santa Monica officers, Kurtzman tells the staff, a mix of Star Trek diehards, part-time fans, and total newbies, that he wants to take a 30,000-foot view for a moment. What's that supposed to mean? I think we need to ground... I mean height. I think we need to ground in science more throughout the show, he says, a giant framed photograph of Spock ears just above his shoulder. The kids need to use science more to solve problems, because Spock likes science. Oh, God, it's awful. Immediately, one of the writers brightens. Are you saying we can amp up the techno-babble, she says. I'm just excited I get to use my computer science degree. Yes, you've got to reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. Sorry, that's Doctor Who. After they break for lunch, Kurtzman is asked how much longer he plans to keep making Star Trek. The minute I fall out of love with it is the minute that it's not for me anymore. I'm not there yet, he says, unfortunately, to be able to build in this universe, to tell stories that are fundamentally about optimism and a better future at a time when the world seems to be falling apart. It's a really powerful place to live every day. There we go. That's the end. That was a long article, wasn't it? Took me nearly an hour to read that. I don't believe him. I don't like Alex Kurtzman, but you never know. He may have changed. I don't mind him being around as a producer, but I don't want him to be creative and saying, do this, do that. Well, I want this to happen. I want him to be a facilitator. So I want creative people to say, I've got this idea for this Star Trek thing, and it's going to stick with canon and all that, and it's going to be cool. And he says, right, I will sort the resources out for you, which is what a producer does, or is supposed to do. Anyway, what's the comments say? Let's have a look. Excellent article, blah, blah, blah. Very interesting, yes, very excited. I find it very sad this article barely mentions Picard Season 3. Yes, and the huge outcry from diehard fans afterward for what we all call Star Trek Legacy, which is basically a new show that follows Captain Seven and the Enterprise G, Titan A, into the future of the fantastic story started by the incredible Terry Matalas. You could basically think of it as Star Trek The Next Generation. Yes, this is what we want. Hashtag Star Trek Legacy. A 60,000 fan petition on the internet, which got more signatures than the fan petition that got Strange New Worlds into production. But no, don't want that, does he? He wants his Starfleet Academy in Section 31. The Shatties 93, get him back on a show before it's too late. Yes, exactly. But anyway, yes, but that's what we want to see. We want to see Star Trek Legacy rather than Section 31 or Starfleet Academy. But anyway, so let's go back to that picture. But yeah, an interesting article. It's nice to see Strange New Worlds. Strange New Worlds. In the midst of filming, because I love Strange New Worlds, I do, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen with Star Trek Lower Decks. Remember, I originally hated Star Trek Lower Decks. I didn't like it at all when it first came on, but I was advised to give it another go, and I did, and I fell in love with it. So I love Strange New Lower Decks as well. And Prodigy, I enjoyed that as well. That got off to a slow start, but by the end of the first season, I was enjoying that. So I'm looking forward to it coming onto Netflix for season 2, and we'll see what happens after that. So there we go. Right. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens. I'm willing to give it a chance because I'm a Star Trek fan, and I'm willing to give it a chance. But I'm not building up my hopes for Section 31 or Starfleet Academy. What we want is Star Trek Legacy, with a good team behind it. You know, like Terry Matalas. He did a good job in Star Trek Picard, Season 3. It wasn't perfect. I don't think it was perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But it was better than we've had thus far. I prefer Strange New Worlds to Star Trek Picard Season 3, even though that's messing about with canon. But Star Trek has always fudged canon to a certain degree. I'm not defending Kurtzman Trek, but you know it has. But anyway, we'll leave it there. So hopefully it's going to be good. Hopefully Star Trek's going to be good again. Right, so we'll leave it there. So thanks for watching, wherever you are. Look after each other, and until next time, I'll say the. Or should it be that?